Yo, what's going on everyone? Today I'm going to be giving you my full review of the Zombies map Forsaken, the final DLC of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. What are my thoughts on it? Did I like the map? Did I not like the map? We're going to talk about that all today. Of course, as we always do, we're going to be going through 4 different categories of things that make maps good or bad. This includes the gameplay, the Easter egg, the atmosphere, as well as the story. And we'll be discussing whether or not the map succeeds in each of these 4 different places. So let's get into it, starting off with the gameplay. The setup process on Forsaken is actually not too bad. You begin the map starting off in this little area outside of the actual facility, and it's pretty cool how everything kind of starts off where the rounds are going by really fast. It's like 1 round per 15 seconds. It's not based on how many zombies you kill, it's just based on a timer. And you can literally stay here as long as you want, just like No Man's Land from Moon, but this is obviously a lot easier and there's more stuff on the wall for you to purchase, so it's not really that difficult to survive there. But after a decent amount of rounds, like maybe round 7, 8 or whatever, it does start to get pretty hectic. And if you turn on the rampage inducer and things get even crazier, and it actually does kind of feel like No Man's Land on Moon. And I just like it because it speeds up the game. One of my least favorite parts of zombies is really the first like 5 rounds or so. The first 5 rounds are usually kind of boring. They're really slow. Zombies kind of come in slowly, and I don't enjoy that all that much. This completely speeds up the process. You're on round 5 by like the first minute of the game, which is fantastic. So you actually get into the main section of the map already on like round 5 or 6, and if you wanted to stay there even a bit longer, it's going to get a little bit challenging, but you could, and you'll have a decent amount of points, and you'll be already there by like round 7 or something with only a minute into the match. It's a great feature. I love this little opening of Forsaken, so it's a great start to the map, and then you start to progress through the map, and you pretty much progress through every little section of the map, which is great. I like when maps literally force you to go to pretty much every section of the map. There's not a single part of the map where you're not going through in order to get to Pack-a-Punch. Essentially, you have to literally go everywhere. Some maps sometimes have little areas that aren't necessary for Pack-a-Punch, and so sometimes you don't even go to those areas till way later into the game. Like there's many maps where I've never even purchased a door on majority of my matches because there's just no need to, but on this map you gotta get there. Like there's no other way to get to where you need to go on this map because pretty much every area is required. And then once you get to the main area, the main little any town section of the map, you have to actually get 4 different pieces around the map in order to fix the teleporter to get to the bunker. And it kind of makes you buy a couple doors around the area in order to get the 4 different pieces. So yes, you have to explore a lot of the area in order to actually get on to the next section. And then when you get to the bunker section is pretty cool because there's this little cinematic event where when you reach the final teleporter, there's your first abomination encounter. And I really like when maps do this. It's really great for your first experience when your first encounter with a specific boss zombie is a cinematic moment like this, where you're about to get to the teleporter and then it just shoots right out of it. It's a really cool moment, and I really wish more maps would do this, and I think most maps do a pretty decent job with your first encounters of bosses, but some maps I say don't really do a good job with it, and they just kind of stroll in whenever they want to. But having a cinematic moment like this, it's part of the setup process in order to get Pack-a-Punch, and that's your first encounter with the main boss of the map. I think it's really awesome. We'll talk about the abomination a little bit later, but I love that encounter. I think it's a really cool little moment, and then when you go through that final teleporter after defeating the abomination, you are now at Pack-a-Punch. And this Pack-a-Punch room is pretty cool. It's this like crystallized room that you can't stay in because it's kind of radioactive, but it plays as this like central hub for the map because you can pretty much get to any other area of the map from this spot. You can literally go into 2 of the teleporters. One of them takes you to the spawn, the other one takes you to the bunker, and the other zip lines take you to either any town or the other little town area. And it's great because it makes the map flow very, very well. I really do like the map layout. I don't think it's perfect. I don't think it's one of the better map layouts we've ever had because it can get kind of confusing at first because of all the different teleporters and such, but once you get used to where the teleporters are taking you, it's definitely a solid map layout, and you can get across the map relatively quickly, and I really have no problem with that at all. And each area has a decent purpose. Like I said, the only area that I think kind of loses its purpose after the beginning of the game is spawn. You're not really going to spawn at all in this game, other than for one part of the Easter egg, one little tiny section of it, and also it is the exfil site. So when you're exfilling, you have to go to spawn. So it's got some purpose, but as a whole, it's probably the least useful section of the map. It's the section I go to basically never, unless again those two exceptions. You have depth perception there, but I mean, who the hell is buying depth perception? If you really want to buy depth perception, you can just get it from the Wonder Fizz, from the bunker. I have no reason to go all the way to spawn for it, even though it's not that far, because like I said, you can just go to the central hub area where the pack-a-punch is and just go through the teleporter and you're there. It's such an easy way to get around the map, and I really do enjoy how the map layout works. I think it was really intelligently designed, and to me that makes the map a lot more enjoyable. The wonder weapon is awesome. It's of course called the Chrysalax, and there's also the SMG variant of it, and you kind of just switch between the SMG variant and the Axe variant, and I really do enjoy how that functions. I think they have some really awesome and unique ideas with wonder weapons still, and I'm really surprised that they do, because I always think to myself, how many more ideas of wonder weapons could they possibly come up with? And they always seem to amaze me with their wonder weapon designs. Yes, a lot of them are sometimes very similar to other wonder weapons we've already seen. Sure, I mean, like the Axe part of this is very similar to the Shadows of Evil sword, but in terms of how it looks and how it really feels in your hand, although it functions the same as that sword from Shadows of Evil, it definitely plays differently in the setting that the game is in. And then of course it allows you to switch to the SMG variant, which, yes, again, that feels very similar to the wonder weapon we just used in Mauer Toten with the pistol version of the Cerberus, but again, it just looks different and feels different, even though the function of it is kind of similar. I think they still do a good job keeping these wonder weapons unique. I am very happy with this specific wonder weapon. It's not amazing or anything. It's definitely not the best wonder weapon we've ever seen, especially when you get into some later rounds. It becomes a little bit weaker, and it's not really the most effective way of staying alive for really long rounds. But in the first like 30 to 40 rounds, which is when most people are playing, it's a very effective wonder weapon, especially when you upgrade it all the way. You practically have unlimited ammo with it, but let's be real here, you practically have unlimited ammo with every weapon in this game because of all the different places you can buy ammo, all the different ways you can get more ammo. You're never really running out of ammo like ever in this game, but I'm just glad that they have a unique wonder weapon here that's fun to use and really awesome looking as well. As we talked about before, the Abomination boss zombie is great. I really love the Margwa. You guys know that Margwa is my favorite boss zombie in Call of Duty Zombies history, so when I heard we were getting something similar to that back, I got very excited, and I think the Abomination is a nice addition to Cold War Zombies. I don't think this guy is annoying to go up against. I've heard some people say he's annoying. I mean, most boss zombies are supposed to kind of implement some sort of challenge, so they might feel a little bit annoying at times, but I don't think he's like an annoying boss to go up against. I actually think he's kind of fun to go up against. I like his attacks. He has an electric attack, which just shoots this beam of electricity at you, which is pretty easy to get away from. You just go behind cover or just run away. It's really not that hard to beat it. Or he'll bum rush you, which is really cool, and you actually have to utilize that. You actually have to utilize both of those. You have to utilize the bum rush and the electric blast in two different steps, for one of them for the Easter egg and one of them for simply getting the wonder weapon as a little side quest. And it's cool how they have to utilize those different abilities for that. And also, just like the Margwa, you have to kind of shoot his eyes in order to defeat him quicker when he opens up his eyes. But of course, like eyes or mouth, whatever you want to call them, really, but this does work a little bit different than the Margwa because you can still just shoot him normally. You don't have to shoot him in the eyes, but it's just the eyes will kill him much faster when they're open, of course. But if you want to just slash him up in his body or whatever, you can do that. And I do like how you have choices there, because the Margwa, you had to shoot him when he opened his eye. There was no other option, which I do think that makes the Margwa better. I kind of like that about the Margwa, but this is just a little bit different, and I kind of like how it's a little bit different, even if it's not as enjoyable as the Margwa was, in my honest opinion. Still though, great addition to the map. Kind of disappointed that he was the only addition in terms of bosses. We have no other new boss zombie to this map, and a lot of other Cold War maps added at least 2 other boss zombies. I mean, you had Firebase C with the Mimics and the Manglers. You had Mauer Toten with the Tormentors as well as the Panzers, and you had, you know, even D Machine had like the Megatons and Nova Dogs. And I think this map would have been a lot better if it included more boss zombies, but instead they just brought back a bunch of boss zombies that we've already seen on prior maps. Actually, almost every boss zombie in Cold War exists on this map. You see the Mimics, you see the Manglers. you see a lot of boss zombies on this map, and it's kind of frustrating. Like, it doesn't really, they don't all fit. You know, I like when boss zombies have their own place on their own maps. I don't like when they just kind of throw them all together and just say, oh, here's a million different boss zombies on a map. You know, we saw Sledgehammer do that a lot with their own zombie modes like Exo Zombies and World War II, and I don't really like that. I never did. I like when the boss zombies are very specific to their own maps. Maybe for a special occasion they can come back. Like, I don't really mind the fact that, you know, other boss zombies came back for like little parts of different steps of the Easter eggs within Mauer Toten, for example. Like the Megatons, you would only see them for those specific Easter egg steps or for the different bunny Easter egg steps. Like, you wouldn't see it normally on the map, but in this map you see everything. You'd see Disciples, you see every single boss zombie except for maybe one or two on this map and from Cold War, and I'm just like, yeah, just too many craziness there. I'd rather they just had the Abominations and maybe one or two new ones. Maybe return the Mimics or something. Like, you can return one or two old ones, but not all of them, you know what I mean? It gets a little bit too much. I kind of wish they did something different with that, because it feels like they just threw a bunch of bosses in there because they wanted the map to be a little more hectic, a little more crazy, which is fine, but do it in a way that feels different and unique. When we see old boss zombies return that we've already seen, it's like, I kind of wanted some different experiences here, but I'm kind of going up against the same bosses I've already seen within this specific game. The new perk, PhD Slider, oh my god, is it amazing. It is by far one of the best perks in this game already. At first I was thinking, how useful is PhD really going to be in Cold War, because there's not many really good explosive weapons in this game. There's a couple here and there, but there's no Mustang and Sally. The ray gun's really good, even though there is self-inflicted damage. I was a little bit excited to at least be able to use the ray gun without that, so I guess I was a little excited for that, but they completely made PhD like a million times better, simply by making your slide speed and slide duration increased. And when I heard it was going to be increased, I was like, oh, it's probably going to be increased by a little bit, like you'll go a little bit faster, a little bit farther, that's fine. But no, you literally are like Usain Bolt, like insane with this. Like, you can go across the map so fast with PhD Slider, it's insane because of the slide. The slide pushes you forward like crazy, and it gets you out of a lot of situations. You get bum rushed by the Abomination, just slide out of the way. There's a whole horde of zombies coming, just slide out of the way. Like, you can do so much, and if you slide into the zombies, it blows them up. It's insane. You jump off of high surfaces, you don't even have to do a dolphin dive because there is no dolphin dive. All you have to do is just jump off a high surface and explodes the floor, and you have unlimited of those. It's an insanely overpowered perk, and I love it. I love these really crazy overpowered perks, so I'm glad to see a perk like that. Honestly, this is just as useful as Juggernog and Quick Revive and Stamina Up in this game. I get it just as quickly as I get those perks, and I'm gonna get it as quickly as I get those other perks on the other maps as well through the Wonder Fizz. So very glad they introduced this perk. I absolutely love PhD Slider in this game already. Definitely a great addition to Forsaken. The arcade games was a nice addition to this map. I'm definitely glad it's there rather than not being there, but I will say it was kind of disappointing. Now, I don't know what I was expecting, honestly. Part of me was hoping for a Spaceland-like arcade, but we obviously did not get that. Instead, we got 3 lackluster arcade machines that you don't really play an arcade machine. You kind of just get transported to like an Outbreak style mini game for most of them. And like I said, it's better they had this rather than not have it, but it just feels so cheap compared to what we had in Spaceland with that awesome arcade with these tickets and these rewards and a bunch of different cool games that you can play. The thing that sucked about the Spaceland arcade was that zombies could hit you while you play the arcade machines, so that's a fair point against that arcade, but all you have to do is fix that one issue and you have a perfect arcade. And instead what they did here is they have these 3 arcade games, one of them being Nocturne on Toten, where you transport to Noct, which is cool, don't get me wrong, but the novelty of it wears off after your first time. I did it once, I have no reason to do it again. You don't really get rewarded that well either. Like, it's not like the rewards are really cool. That's the big problem with the side quests in Cold War, is that the rewards aren't that great. So I don't really feel a need to play a lot of the arcade games because the rewards aren't even good. In the Nocturne Toten one, you just kind of get transported to Noct for like 2 minutes with a pistol, and you just kind of have to defend yourself against them, and you open up a little chest after you complete part of it, and you get a couple different things to salvage. Like, I can just get that from playing the map itself. I don't have to jump into Noct for a couple minutes to do it. I played Noct a million times as well, so the novelty wore off after my first time doing it. I thought it was cool the first time, and then I went into it a second time. I'm like, oh, this is kind of boring. You know what I mean? And then you go over to the Dreisendrach one, which I was so excited to go to Dreisendrach, and then it brings you to the goddamn, the Outbreak Dragon thing, and I'm just like, oh, I've done this a million times already. And again, just like I said, I don't really feel the need to do it because the rewards are not that great. They're things I can just get from playing the map. I can just kill zombies and get these same rewards. The one with the little car, the RC car that you drive, I like that one a little bit more because it does give you a decent amount of points if you succeed, and it doesn't take that long to do it. You can kind of just hop in and do it, so points are nice. So I do like to do that one all the time, pretty much every game, but the thing that kind of bugs me is it's the same every game. They didn't change it up. You know, how cool would it be if they had different courses, different obstacles every time to kind of change up your experience a little bit, so maybe you can keep doing the machine again and again and getting different courses. Same thing goes for the other side quests, which they actually have, which I think is really cool. They have like a Mario Kart style side quest where you can actually drive the RC car around and, like, you know, race your friends. It was a little glitched for me a couple different games, and I actually died while I was doing it, which makes no sense, but it's a glitch. But in terms of the side quest itself, it's cool. But again, your rewards are not that good, and it's the same course every time, so it gets repetitive. The novelty wears off. That's why you need to do something different every time, so the novelty doesn't become something that just goes away, and then it's like, oh, now I don't really want to do it anymore. It's repetitive. If the reward was really good, then I would feel more inclined to do it every time, but you don't get that much. You get some points, whatever. I can just play the game itself normally, kill zombies, level up my guns, and I'll get points that way. Like, I don't need to do these side quests. Side quests in older zombies games like Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4, Infinite Warfare rewarded you with things that you could not get in any other way, so it actually felt rewarding to do. Now, I know they don't want to do that this time because I know they want us to be able to get everything without having to do Easter egg quests. I get it. They want everything to be accessible to everyone, but the issue with that is now I just don't care about the side quests anymore. I just don't. And if they wanted to at least make the rewards worthwhile, make them really good. Instead of just some salvage, give you like a shitload of salvage. Like enough salvage to the point where it'll, you know, make up for like 5 rounds worth of earning salvage or something, because they usually don't give you that much, to be honest. I just wish it was a Spaceland style arcade where you played games, won tickets, and used those tickets to buy things in the shop. That would be cool to me. That would be awesome, and I think that would be a fun arcade. But this one, it feels kind of lackluster, and I honestly don't really care to play it all that much because, like I said, not only the game's not very fun, but they're not rewarding, and there's just not much replayability to it because it's pretty much the same thing every time. The novelty wore off after my first time playing. Now I don't care anymore, and it's quite unfortunate, so that's just the way it is, I guess. Another issue I have is literally the same issue I've had with every single Cold War Zombies map. The map feels kinda lackluster in terms of what the content is for there to do. There's not many things. There just isn't. There's the same things that we've seen on every map. You level up your guns, you try to get them as high as you can in the Pack-a-Punch tiers, you try to get them to the highest rarity possible. You can also do some trials, challenges, and just the same type of trials you get pretty much every other time. It's just kill zombies in a specific area or survive in a certain area for a certain amount of time. The same challenge we've already seen a million times over that also just give you some, you know, sometimes decent, sometimes lackluster rewards. Not anything too special. And there's a couple side quests, and then there's the Easter egg, and that's literally it. There's been plenty of other maps we've had that has way more depth than that, way more things to do, things that take longer, things that are more exciting to do, and I don't think Forsaken provides that. I got pretty much done with everything there is to do on the map within like my first 3 games of playing. That's not good. I should not be able to complete everything that easily, but I did. I've done everything the map has to offer. I don't really see much purpose of continuing to play the map that much in an enjoyable manner. You know what I mean? When I go back to the map now, it's just to rank up guns and just maybe go for Dark Ether or something. That's all I really do anymore. There's some maps in Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare, and even Black Ops 4, that I have not done everything yet. There's some maps I literally haven't even done every side quest because there's so many little side quests. And yes, you have stuff like getting the intel and stuff, but I simply don't care about getting the intel, so it's just not something that's on my mind. There's just not much to these maps. There's not many quests to do, and I know why they don't do them anymore is because a lot of players are not gonna do them regardless. They don't really care because they know majority of players just play zombies very casually. Majority of players just hop in just to kill zombies. But I get bored of that pretty quickly, and I think most people would agree with me on that. So The map has a lot of great gameplay elements, but it kind of falls flat in terms of content. What is there to actually do on this map that I haven't done a million times already? That's a big issue in my opinion. And the last thing I want to talk about for this section of the video is the process of getting the crystal axe for free, which, yes, there's a side quest to get the crystal axe. I don't like it. I think it's fine up until the last step. There's 3 crystals you have to get around the map. They're pretty easy to get, all 3 of them. I don't really mind that part, but when you actually have to go build it, you have to get melee kills in order to fill up the soul. Who thought of that? Now, I know we had that in Origins, but that was different because you had these staffs, which literally had a melee ability on it, and you also had the shield. But there's not many melee weapons you can get in this game other than, of course, from the box. You can get some different melee weapons from there. And unless you're doing it on a really early round, your Bowie knife's not really going to be that effective. Like, usually you're getting the crystal axe by like round 15 or something. It takes like 4 knives swipes to kill 1 zombie, and you're trying to do that when there's a whole horde coming at you. It to me, it's just a weird step. It's not like it's challenging, it's just stupid. I'm just like sitting there like, what am I doing? Like, it would be so much easier with a melee weapon, I know, but the problem is you have to get those out of the box, and I'm not going to hit the box a million times to try to get one. When in Origins you have the same sort of a step, you can just build the shield and just use the shield to do it, or you can get the staff and just use the staff to do it. It's a lot easier that way, but regardless, that's a small nitpick I just wanted to throw in there. That is all for the gameplay section of this video. I do like the gameplay of this map for the most part. It has a lot of those core mechanics of Cold War that I do like, but the map is still lackluster in things to do in terms of the gameplay, and that's unfortunate. But of course, the Easter egg is there. Let's talk about that main Easter egg quest, which you guys know is very important to me. Let's talk about it. Honestly, my thoughts on this Easter egg are pretty much identical to my thoughts of Mauer Toten's Easter egg. The boss fight is incredible. Love the boss fight. I think it's one of the coolest boss fights we've ever had. But everything before that, everything leading up to the boss fight, is so boring and kind of just meaningless to me. Like, it's such a simplistic Easter egg. It's one of the quickest Easter eggs. This is one of the fastest Easter eggs we've literally ever had. All you have to do is push a button and then get these 3 crystals around the map, which are very easy to get. You just need to shoot your gun at these little balls of orbs or whatever floating around the crystals, and then the crystals you can smash open with the crystal axe, and you pick up these little crystals, you throw them into the mouth of the actual abomination things themselves. You got to kill them. You got to do it 3 times around the map. You also have to pick up 3 things around the map that are very easy to get. Like, they're not hard quests to get. One of them you have to do some little lockdown step. The other one you have to just get the abomination to smash into a wall and it drops down. The other one you have to do this little arcade game with this RCXD car where you just go to this little TV shop and then explode the RC car and it blows out this TV. You get those 3 parts, you get the 3 crystals you get from the abominations, and you put them all together and you build this little machine in the town area, and that's it. You're basically into the boss fight at that point. And there's this little escort step, which we've seen a million times in this game, and you escort it to the boss fight arena, and you're in the boss fight. That's literally it. I don't get it. To me, these Easter eggs just feel so boring compared to what we've seen before. Like, I think they're fun the first time you do it, but then after that, I don't want to ever do it again because it took no thought to complete. I could have done this with my eyes closed. My grandma could have done this Easter egg. The problem with making the Easter eggs so simplistic is that they become boring very fast. Yes, they're easier to do, so for those people who don't enjoy tedious quests, they'll probably prefer this, sure. And I don't really like tedious quests either. I'm not a big fan of those maps that have really tedious Easter eggs. But you can make it challenging and long and thought-provoking without making it tedious. Der Eisendrache was that to me. You had steps on Der Eisendrache that felt like you had to actually use your brain, and there was actually some intensity to it. Now, there wasn't much intensity to it if you used like all the mega gobblegums and stuff, but I'm just saying base game using only classics or something. there was a lot of moments in the Easter egg where you had to, hold on to your horses a little bit and be like prepared for stuff because it could get hectic. And even then, it wasn't like that hard, but it was still somewhat thought-provoking. You had steps like the Simon Says step where you had to actually do a puzzle of some sort. Even go back to Black Ops 1, you had a Simon Says step all the way back on Moon. And then you go over to, Black Ops 4, you have maps like 9, which have these really in-depth steps that actually require you to play the game and think for a bit. Dead of the Night, one of my favorite steps of all time, with the little atlas thing where you have to like hold X on the different panels and switch the different lights to shine in at different angles, and you have to kind of figure out that logic puzzle. It was annoying that zombies could hit you while you do it, but if you gave us puzzle steps like that and made it so you can do them with zombies not touching you, oh my god, this game would be perfect. Like Resident Evil 2 style enjoyable. Like those type of puzzles need to be in here. Stuff that makes you think, stuff that makes you use your brain. But they make these Easter eggs for literally people who have no brains, and I don't like that. I don't like that. I would find it enjoyable, at least if they made it challenging, because even if it wasn't thought-provoking and it was still very simplistic the way it is, but it was at least hard, then okay, we could have a challenge here. It can take me some time to complete. Like, for example, the first Outbreak Easter egg quest I thought was actually kind of cool because it was hard. Like, it was difficult. They made it easier over time because people complained about it being hard, which is why I'm not really blaming Treyarch for doing these things, because I kind of understand why they're making it easier, because the community cries about everything and they cry when things are too difficult. So that's what they did for the Outbreak quest, and then it became easier. I thought that quest was incredible. It took me like 5 attempts to do it. I want to have 5 attempts until I can actually get it done. I don't want to complete it on my first go around, because then the map becomes kind of not as playable. I think we have this mentality where everything needs to be, we need to do it as quick as possible, but I don't want to do it as quick as possible. I want to have some challenging moments there. And I know I can make the game challenging for me. I can make it more challenging by doing stuff like snipers only or shotgun only, but I don't want to handicap myself just to make the game harder. It should just be like that by default, in my opinion, or at least have different quests of difficulty. Have a quest that's easy, have a quest that's hard. Do what the Final Reich did. So you have one quest that is that challenging, hardcore quest, and then you have the one that's more casual for the players who just aren't very good or don't like those in-depth quests, and they don't want to have to maybe use a YouTube guide to figure stuff out. I personally don't think I'd even need a YouTube guide to figure out the harder quests. I would just need more time. I would just need to sit there and try to figure it out. Maybe do a live stream and have like a nice conversation with my chat. Let's try to hunt this Easter egg, figure it out. But this Easter egg was literally completed in like 2 hours. And that's how all the Cold War maps have been. And I don't really care that much about the first initial hunt. I'm not really the type of person to be like, oh, it needs to take 3 days to complete. I just want it to be difficult and something that maybe will take some time on my own to complete. Or maybe will just be a little bit more thought-provoking because maybe it gets different every time. Maybe there's different steps that you can find ways to complete more efficiently. Like there's tons of Easter egg steps in Black Ops 3 and 4 where I always was doing it one way, and then I saw someone else do it a different way, and I'm like, oh, that would make it so much easier. And I love learning different things like that. But in Cold War, the only things you can really learn are things of how to do it quicker. How can I do it faster? And even then, those don't take that long to learn, because simple things such as just using Ether Shroud at certain times and switching to Ring of Fire at different steps, and just knowing how to switch between different abilities and such and what weapons to use, and that's really it. You know what I mean? It's just how to do it faster. How can I get to point A to point B faster, rather than how do I actually do these steps more efficiently and easier to make it better for me. There's not much to learn there. All I have to do is just what they tell me to do, and it's pretty easy what to do. It's so simple. I've never had a single problem with any of these Easter eggs when it comes to completing them, and I kind of want to struggle a little bit. I struggled with the Outbreak quest. That was about it. So I'm a little disappointed there. But when it comes to the boss fight, I do like this boss fight. The Forsaken boss fight is cool, just like Valentina from the prior map. I think it's a fun boss fight. It has phases to it. It's not just this bullet sponge. You actually have to do different things. You have to shoot the boss a bunch, destroy his shield, and then you have to fill up the souls with Samantha. And Samantha flying around and fighting the Forsaken was awesome. That was a really cool addition. It made it very cinematic, and the boss arena itself great as well. You have to fill her souls up. She kind of souls up the different the cannons or whatever, and then you use the cannons, and then you shoot the bitch, and you do a bunch of damage to him, and you get more and more damage as the boss fight goes along, and it works well with the different phases. There's a couple different phases, and then when you defeat him, boom, you're done. It's an awesome little boss fight. It takes like 4 or 5 minutes. It's not even that long of a boss fight. It's not my favorite boss fight. There's plenty more that I liked a lot more. But for Cold War especially, this is a great boss fight. This and Valentina, awesome boss fights. And of course, Legion as well from Outbreak. That was a great boss fight too. So I was impressed with that. I was. It made me feel a little bit better about the fact that the steps leading up to it were quite lackluster. But the boss fight ended the map on a good note, at least. So yeah, the Easter egg, again, just like every other Cold War map, lackluster, but it's not the worst thing ever. So let's talk about the map atmosphere. I think map atmosphere is so much more important than what people give it credit for, because I don't really hear people talking about atmosphere all that much. I think this could make or break maps, and I think this map has mostly a pretty damn good atmosphere. Atmosphere includes stuff like the look of the map, the sound design, the music, all of that is included in the atmosphere. How the map feels to be on. It has nothing to do with the gameplay, nothing to do with, I mean, it could have something to do with the Easter eggs in the story because the atmosphere could be implemented into those things, but on its own, this map has a really solid feel to it. I already knew what I was getting into because we've already played on this location in the campaign, and I loved this mission in the campaign. It was one of the coolest places on any campaign mission within this game. So I was excited to see it, and I think they did a good job recreating it and making it feel like it fits in zombies. I mean, the skybox is beautiful. For example, you have a lot of neon lights everywhere, the different little shops that have neon lights in them. It feels very 80s-like, and that is fantastic. I think they did a great job with that. Even locations like the bunker look pretty damn cool. They don't really fit the same vibe as what the main areas of the map feel, but for what it is, it's awesome. I don't think this is nearly as, atmospheric and incredible as a lot of other maps we've seen. Of course, when you go to places like Delphi with Ancient Evil, and you go to places like a castle, a snowy castle for Horizon Drop, like there's so many places that are just so much more cooler than these Cold War maps, but on its own, these maps have had some decent locations. I think the atmosphere is good. My biggest issue is, again, the lack of unique music. A lot of the music they use for this map is reused from the campaign, and also there's just a lack of it. Like in prior maps in Black Ops 3 and 4, and yes, I'm gonna keep comparing it to older Black Ops games, there was music playing pretty much throughout the entire map. You had music playing all the time. Different areas you would go to, different music would play, and I loved that. This map, you get the round change music, which is great. Don't get me wrong, it's great round change music. You get a couple little, musical quotes here and there in terms of different steps of the Easter egg and such, but that's about it. And then you have one little Easter egg song, which is like Samantha's theme, but a little bit remixed, and it's a cool theme, but that's it. There's not even a new Kevin Sherwood song, and in terms of background music, the score of the map, it's not there. There's really barely any of it. I just don't get why they went so far back with music. It was so great in Black Ops 4 and 3, and they kind of just didn't do much with it this time, and I don't get it. And even just in terms of general music, why not just do like a Spaceland type thing? Like, you have a map here where it already has a feel to it where you could definitely have loudspeakers on the map. There could definitely be like an overhead system in this facility that would play music that would fit with the 80s town. And they already have the license to a ton of different classic 80s songs within the Battle Pass. There's tons of amazing 80s music in the Battle Pass that you can use in the war tracks in vehicles. Why not implement those into the map? Make it like Spaceland, just have the music playing all the time. And I know creators don't like that because then they get copyright claimed, but obviously you can just have a feature to turn it off. It's not that hard. I would love that. It would make the map at least more atmospheric if it had some kind of music playing. If it's not going to have background music, at least give me some atmospheric 80s music to listen to while I play the map. You have of course, your music tracks you can put on, but they don't have the 80s songs in there. They just have the, Zombies soundtrack itself in there. That's all they have. They don't have those 80s songs, which I don't get it because they already have the license to it, so why not use it in other places as well? I don't get it. So certain things about the atmosphere in this map is fantastic. Other things, a little lackluster, just like every other Cold War map, to be honest. Lastly, let's talk about the story real quick. I haven't been that interested in the story within Cold War. Not that it's not a good story, because it is. They're doing a good job with it. But personally, the game doesn't really feel like it's made for a good story, because a lot of the story is put in the intel, and it's obviously got a couple cutscenes here and there, but it's not like it's that interactive with the story. Like, you can do the Easter eggs of this map and not really pay attention to the story pretty effectively. I feel like the other maps kind of almost forced you into the story at some points, but this you have to kind of focus on the intel and such, and I just don't really think it's something I'm all that interested in. Also, because you have no set crew, so you're not playing as people with personalities, rather you're just hearing people with personalities that you hear in the cutscenes and you hear over the, you know, the radios and stuff. That's all you're really seeing when it comes to that. So I haven't been that intrigued in it, but for what this map does for the existing story in Cold War, I really do like it. It does wrap it up nicely. It's one of the better endings that we've ever had. You know, people always complain about these story endings for prior games, and I think this one definitely at least wraps it up nicely. And it hints at some cool stuff coming down the line with, of course, Richtofen, because he came back at the very, very end. I don't really know if they're even going to do anything with that beyond that, but, you know, it was one of those endings where it was like everything's kind of solved, but they still want to get Samantha back. I'm sure that's where it's going to go from here. I'm sure, you know, Peck and stuff and Weaver or whatever, they're going to try to get back Samantha from the Dark Ether. That's where I think it's going, but I don't think we're going to get to that until the next Treyarch game. I'm sure this next game is going to work into the Dark Ether story some way, but differently. Like, it's going to be a prequel, but very differently. I don't really expect it to be similar in any way, shape, or form, although it's going to allude back to the story in some ways, I'm sure. And the cutscenes in this map were pretty great. Like, I loved that ending cutscene, and it had that really great song with it, and I thought it played out really nicely. It was one of the better made cutscenes from any Zombies map ever, to be completely honest. So, good job with that, Treyarch. Like I said, they make a great story, I gotta say, but I just don't follow it that much because, like I said, the maps don't really do a good job of integrating that story into the gameplay elements all that well, which is why I don't really follow it all that well. If they made the map feel more cinematic like we had in the past, like Mob of the Dead, for example, very cinematic map with how the story plays into everything and how the character quotes work into the map. This game, I don't feel that. It feels more like I'm just playing zombies and I'm just, you know, shooting zombies and stuff like that. So I think they could do a better job with that, but the story itself is still really good with how it is being set up. So my final verdict on this map, the map isn't really doing anything that wrong. Like, it's not an offensive map or anything. It's not pissing me off like a map like Transit where there's annoying bosses and all these different things that just ruin it. This map is simply explained as it's just lackluster. You know, it's not doing as much as I was hoping it would, but to be fair, that's kind of every Cold War map. So, in my opinion, this map is still really good, though. It really does do well for what it's given, for what Cold War has to offer, and compared to other Cold War maps, I do think it's one of the better ones, but I don't think it's the best one. So prior to this, I gave Mauer Toten an 8.5 out of 10, and I think I'm going to keep that score. I think Mauer Toten has better overall gameplay, and I do think the Easter egg is a little bit more enjoyable, and the atmosphere, although I love this location, I think the Berlin atmosphere just worked a little bit better. So I gave that an 8.5. I'm going to give this map an 8 out of 10, which is a good rating. It means this map is good to me. But I don't think it's great. I don't think it's on the level of a lot of Black Ops 3 and 4 maps, which would be getting like 9s out of, even 10 out of 10s for a lot of them. So it is what it is. I think D Machine and Firebase C are definitely the weakest parts of this game. And then Outbreak is, I mean, it's Outbreak. I don't really know. It's not the best thing in the world. It's not the worst thing either. It's just kind of there. But 8 out of 10, I think that's a good score to finish off the final Cold War Zombies map. Hopefully you all enjoyed this review. Let me know what you think in the comment section below of Forsaken. I will see you all in my next one. Peace out.